Gators Breakdown Plus members, you've heard this before, but here we go. We're gonna try it again. Technical difficulties, got it figured out. I hope this time right here. But another Gators Breakdown Plus member chat right here. David Waters, host of Gators Breakdown, of course. I'm gonna be joined by Florida Victorious' Nick De La Torre joining me right here. Talk a little bit of Nick getting some access with the coordinators, offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner, defensive coordinator Brad White. Nick, we've done this second time we've done this here intro, but surprisingly, you enjoying the cold weather.
Yeah. Your second intro was better. Just shows that perfect practice makes perfect, not practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. I am enjoying the cold weather. I think, like I said, I think it's because I know that it won't be here for long. And in June and July, I'll probably be wishing it was a little bit cooler. When we're out there for like summer ball. So enjoying the cold weather while I can. I don't have to work outside. Somebody in the chat said that they work outside. I don't have to work outside. That would definitely change my perspective.
Yeah, goal in life to never shovel snow. Apparently
it's heavy.
Yeah, and you don't have to shovel sunshine. So I'm good on that.
No.
Oh, Nick, I guess we'll get started. Access to Buster Faulkner, Brad White, the coordinators, some more staff members you also are getting access to. And right there on Florida Victorious, everybody become a member right there. And, I should not forget about this. One more time, since we have a Florida Victorious representative right here, big thanks to Gators Breakdown Plus members. A couple of weeks ago, we did the donation drive right here on Gators Breakdown Plus. So everybody, one more time with Nick being on here, big time thank you guys to putting some more effort there towards Florida Victorious.
Yeah, and from our standpoint too, totally organic. I think Dave kind of just like told me like, hey, by the way, I'll have a couple $1,000s to send you next week. I was like, what did I do? He's like, no, not you. To Florida Victorious, and kind of told me what you guys had done. Really, really cool to see Gator fans kind of just rally around a new coaching staff, rally around the program. It hasn't been the most fun football season since I got here in 2013, Dave. I might be the issue. But in this day and age with NIL, whether you like it or whether you don't, it's kind of not going away. And to see your community kind of step up and say like, hey, whatever we can do, let's do it, was really, really cool. So we appreciate that. And I can confirm, I'm sure there were suspicions that Dave did send money. That wasn't a Photoshop that he posted. He didn't pocket it. He won't be going back to Jamaica on your guys' dime.
We'll be going back to Jamaica, just not on that dime.
Just not on that time. Yeah. It would have been a bigger hotel room for you and the wife. We're in the Kapua suite this year, guys.
The bigger joke was I got a new truck out of it, but I did not. I did not. It was not a down payment toward the truck. So
it was just a full used truck.
Yeah, but good stuff there, everybody. Thanks one more time for stepping up there. But hey, before we get started, though, of course, we're about a week away from the Super Bowl, the big game in San Francisco. My bookies got you covered for all the betting action. Everybody will be watching, of course. Everybody will have their take, so might as well do the betting take right there at my bookie. Go bet the spread, which is Seattle favored by 5 right now. Go bet the over or under at 45.5, and all the prop bets you can handle right there at my bookie. Super Bowl, the one game where prop bets matter just as much as the score. My bookie Super Bowl prop board is deep. Go bet it all right there at my bookie. One account, one wallet, bet football spreads and prop bets, and then spend some time hitting those casino games. No switching apps, no jumping platforms. It's all in one place. And if you're new to my bookie, use our promo code Gators, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. Make your play. If it doesn't hit, you get it right back with the bet back bonus. So sign up at mybookie.ag with promo code Gators and go claim your bet back bonus. Don't just watch the game, make it pay with my bookie. All right, Nick, let's get started. Both your sit downs with Buster Faulkner and Brad White, they both mentioned the players being hungry. Now, that's what you expect to hear after a head coach change and a new approach to things. obviously their own hand, they haven't had their own hands on the players, just yet. It's been more about the workout so far. What have you seen or heard from the players that you've talked to about the change in the mindset going on under Jon Sumrall right now?
Yeah, I think the one thing is that the way that it's set up for players now, if you didn't want to buy in, if you didn't believe in what the coaching staff told you, there's a very easy first option for some guys. You can go in the portal as many times as you want now. And I think specifically, in previous years, you would get a new coaching staff, but you had that second spring portal. So some guys would stick it out and say like, hey, let me see what spring ball is like. If I don't like it, I can go into the spring portal. You don't have that option this year unless you're graduating in the spring. So I think you saw guys like, if I look at the guys that left, I think, probably only Trey Wilson is one that you're like, I really would have liked him to stay if I'm the coaching staff.
And then you go get Singleton, to replace him.
Right. Just what I'm saying, it's also tough too. And I didn't really speak on it much this time, but I've said it in the past, when you get all of those, so-and-so is expected to go. And I feel like every program, it's not just Gator fans. I feel like every program is like, what the hell's wrong with this? What the hell? What's going on with our coach staff? I'm like, you can't say you're getting somebody when the portal isn't open for 10 days. These are just guys saying that they're anticipating going in. Or what's happening now is, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
What's happening now is agents are reaching out to reporters because if the player says, hey, if Pete Nakos or Hayes Fawcett or Matt Zenit says, hey, so-and-so is going into the portal, now all of these other coaches start reaching out to the agent because that's not tampering. You're not talking to the player. So agents want that stuff out there as early as possible so they can start conversations. So that little period where you have guys jumping into the portal and Gator fans are freaking out. And I was just like, well, you can't counter that with anything. Other than like when we were at Florida Victoria, so they're onto the goal being like, hey, we're re-signing guys. We were trying to counter that a little bit on our end, but you're not getting any guys out of the portal. So it's hard to fight that. But I think the biggest thing is that the guys and there are guys who didn't go in the portal. There's tampering is alive and well. And just because you weren't officially in the portal doesn't mean your agent wasn't getting reached out to. It doesn't mean that you yourself, your mom, your uncle, your dad, your aunt, grandma, grandpa, people, other schools will reach out to whoever they think has your phone number to try to get a number on the table to get you to go into the portal. So even guys who didn't go into the portal, like Jaden Baugh, never officially went into the portal, like you're battling to keep those guys. So I think from that standpoint, any guy that's still on the roster had an opportunity to leave. They chose to stay, whether it's for the degree that they'll get, whether it's because they had good friends here or they liked their teammates or they wanted to stay in the SEC or, hey, I loved Jon Sumrall. I loved Buster Faulkner. I loved Marcus Davis, my position coach. I loved these guys and I wanted to stay with them. I think the biggest thing for me, if you're trying to combat saying, hey, that's just lip service because it's the time of the year is, hey, they had a chance. All of those guys, a Jaden Woods, even a Tremel Jones, a Jaden Baugh, LJ McCray, all of these guys had opportunities to go play big-time Division I football elsewhere, and they chose to stay here after speaking with the coaching staff.
Yeah, good deal. Good deal there. So let's get to some of the recent happenings at Florida Victorious and the interviews that you conducted and put out to the coordinators there, Buster Faulkner and Brad White. Let's start on offense and Buster Faulkner with him because he was also on Gator Tales with Sean Kelly. So there was a lot coming out from the offensive side of football this past week. And then we'll get some members in here and get their thoughts too, and we can have the conversation with you here. Buster saying, flexible, versatile offense with formation, shift, and motions to find out what works and then really start doing more of what the guys do well. But one of my biggest takeaways, Nick, was how in depth he went with you on being explosive. And it's the one offensive stat that he thinks makes a difference and wants more chunk plays of the 30, 40-yard variety. And this was the one. I mean, he was specific in this one. Wants at least 2 40-yard plays a game, on the way to scoring about 30, 35 points a game. So, and then taking that when we
Buster Faulkner might be a Gators Breakdown Plus member. He might be in here currently. He might have heard you over the past couple of years, Dave.
Yes, explosiveness. I could not probably say that word enough. I did go back and track it, and this was just 2025, this past year. We know how ugly it was, but games with 2 40-yard plays. Florida had 3 games last year. Florida only had 7 40-plus yard plays all year last year, Nick. 7. So there was only 3 games with 2 of those 40-plus yard plays. Of course, one was LIU. Okay. so only 2 other against, FBS opponents. Of course, one was the win over Texas. There was a 60-yard pass to VB3 and a 55-yard touchdown pass to Dallas Wilson, of course. And then against Ole Miss, Florida had a 47-yard pass to TJ Abrams and a 57-yard touchdown pass to J. Michael Sturdivant. That was the only games where Florida had 2. They didn't have more than 2, by the way. There was 2 games where Florida only had, against FBS opponents, 40-plus yard plays. So that's, Buster Faulkner wouldn't like that very much. Go to Georgia Tech. They had 18 total 40-plus yard plays last year. 5 games with 2 or more for them. Gardner-Webb was 1. They had 6 in that one, by the way. But I pointed that one out because Aaron Philo actually started and played that game, by the way, where everybody kind of knows that. They had it against Temple as well, so not one of the stronger opponents, of course, on their schedule. They had 3 in that game, but they had 2 in a win versus Duke. They had 2 more in a loss to NC State and 2 more in a win versus Boston College. So I wanted to go through and track it since he likes, and I'll probably will go through his years at Georgia Tech, but just basing it on last year, Buster Faulkner, there were, like I said, 5 games where they had 2 or more 40-plus yard plays.
Yeah, and he and I talked a little bit off the record about Haynes King, so I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but my opinion, Haynes King, I don't know that he's like high on NFL teams draft boards. Great college player. I loved when Georgia Tech would be on TV because I loved watching him play, but not a great passer.
Yep.
And I think a lot of Florida fans, at least in the beginning, Buster Faulkner seemed to have like a big name, but like if you go and watch Georgia Tech, like you're not going to be excited about what you saw the last 2 years with Haynes King. And I think, but to me, at least from talking to Buster and what he wants Florida's offense to look like, it's not going to look like that. And to me, that, we talk about, or we used to talk about a lot, you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole. If you had a quarterback like Haynes King and you were like, hey, we're going to throw it 40 times a game, that's square peg round hole. And I think he changed the offense to fit what he had, which was a really tough physical runner who made you play 11 on 11 on defense to account for his running ability. And then, you would take some shots when defenses started to sink down to try to stop the run. But I think it's not like Buster Faulkner is not like, hey, that's what I'm going to do. And if you go back, I think he was at Georgia and Coach Stetson Bennett. That certainly that Georgia offense did not look like what Georgia Tech's looked like. So I am encouraged that there seems to be some history that backs up him saying, hey, we're going to be explosive. We're going to have motions and we're going to do this. And I actually spoke with Trent McKnight last week as well. I just put those 2 videos up on Friday, Saturday, and in one of his, he said, we're going to have 2, 3, 4 wide receivers. And silently in my head, I was like, people are going to love to hear 4 wide receivers. I don't know how many times they'll do it a game, but people listening to this after the years that we've just gone through will love to hear 4 wide receivers. But I think that's, at least there is some, some tape. There's some film that shows, hey, the offenses have looked different based on his personnel.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up too, because Buster did made sure to point out the speed at wide receiver Florida has. No, certainly not lost on getting Vernell Brown and Dallas Wilson back and going and getting Eric Singleton. He mentioned, going out and getting the speed in the portal too at that position. And Nick, as we go to quarterbacks, certainly first thing he says, you're looking for mental toughness in quarterbacks. But then the way he just came out and said, quote, arm strength is overrated. I mean, it was straight to the point. We were talking about arm strength there, and he says being accurate, making quick decisions, getting the ball out on time is more important for him. Be quick in the pocket, but don't have to be fast physically overall. And of course, and kind of going to your point there, he said adjust what the offense could do at the quarterback and what the offensive line can do too, what they can handle. But definitely going to your point more too of what you just said is go to the speed of the players that he has and can get in the state of Florida. I don't know how long he'll be here, Nick. I'm like, I put like a 2-year window on it because I'm pretty high on him. And I think Florida's going to have some success if Philo or Tramel Jones wins the quarterback job. He was going to be at the top of my list. And, when Florida was looking for a head coach and Brent Key's name was coming up, I'm like, I asked myself, the first question I asked myself about Brent Key is how much of the success of Brent Key is Buster Faulkner? Because I'm a big Buster Faulkner fan from what I've seen at Georgia Tech and, adapting to his personnel and making a successful offense out of, what I don't really think is a whole lot there, but playing to his personnel and making it successful anyway. And I think that's what he's going to do here at Florida too. So we already know he was in line getting some interviews for some lower level, like Southern Miss head coaching jobs. So I'm going to try to enjoy the ride here because I like what he's saying so far. Yeah, it might be lip service, but as you said, I think there is a track record as he's been offensive coordinator to have success doing it different ways. And I think the realization of what he has at quarterback with Philo and, also, commending Tramel Jones too for his approach so far and how fast that he's getting it and what he has at Jaden Ball, what he has at wide receiver, and then hyping up Phil Trotwine and the offensive line too, and saying, hey, we're going to try and go 9-10 deep there, and we've hit the portal there at that spot too. So I think there's a realization of what he has here that I think it will set up well, but mainly trying to figure out what he has at quarterback.
Yeah, well, I think he knows what he has in Aaron Philo.
Yeah.
It's a kid that you've seen every day in practice for every day for 2 years. I hesitate to say like he knows the system. Like you're not going to overhaul and change. I used to say this about like Billy Napier, about any coach. Like your playbook might be 800 pages with 800 different plays, 90 concepts. But when it comes to a game week, hey, we've got these 50, these 70 that we're going to run in a game. You're not, implementing everything. And that's based on what worked, what didn't work, what guys were comfortable with. So he understands certainly the terminology and he knows he's been in Buster Faulkner's system and knows what they expect. And then you got Tramel Jones, who he was another kid, who could have left. That was a negotiation and almost a re-recruitment too. But Tramel loves it here. And I think the one thing that I can say is after talking to Coach Sumrall, Darian Mensah, when he was at Tulane, the now infamous Darian Mensah, when he was at Tulane, was Tulane's lowest paid quarterback of the 4 that they had on contract. And he started. And it's because he was the best player. And Jon Sumrall doesn't care if you're making $9 million. If you're QB3, you're QB3. And then, hey, we got to talk to our GM because we're paying you too much. So I think both Tramel and Aaron are just ready, and we're told, like, hey, whoever's the best is going to play. I sitting here, I don't think I'm being as genuine as I can. I believe that to be true. I hope it to be true, but I also believe it to be true. So it'll be interesting to me to see how that goes, because Tramel, truly, last year, people kept asking me about Tramel in the spring, and I'm like, hey, he's on the other field. Tramel's on the field 2. He's playing with other true freshmen and walk-ons. And then fall came, and people were saying, hey, I hear Tramel's coming on. And I'm like, I'm at every practice. I don't know who you're hearing this from. He's on field 2. And then the second scrimmage happened, and that week leading up to the second scrimmage, he started getting the call over, getting called up from AA to the majors, from field 2 to field 1. And then all of a sudden I'm watching the second scrimmage from in the swamp. And I'm like, oh, they might be making a change. And it really was like that kind of quick. I guess not quick in Tramel's development, but spring, no reps of the ones to all the way until like the week of the second scrimmage in fall camp to being like, hey, you might get a chance to be the backup or the starter here, the backup to DJ. So he's made leaps and bounds in his development with the past coaching staff. And now you have, a couple more guys with with Buster and Craddock and those guys who are going to help out on offense.
Yep. So I'll get Harrison in here and to wrap up on the Gator Tales podcast with Sean Kelly. Faulkner went on to say about Aaron Philo, praising him for his pre-snap awareness, quick release, and accuracy, and then goes on to speak highly of Tramell Jones, noting his, quote, extreme arm talent and eagerness to learn. So there we go. If you guys missed that, certainly, go back and listen to the Buster Faulkner interview with Nick on Florida Victorious, and then this week as well with Sean Kelly. So Harrison said he's got a couple questions for you, Nick.
Hey, Nick, just got a couple of questions for you, and I'll get out of here. What's Buster really like when you talk to him? Because he seems like just a good old South Georgia boy. You can put a dip in and have a beer with. Because just from watching him.
Yep. Yep. It's interesting because we did, I like to do the kind of get to know you ones. I like to show like the human side of the coaches. And when we finished those 10 questions, he was like, I'll tell you what, when we do family game night, I don't even participate in questions like that. He's like, so you got me. I was like, listen, we're just trying to raise money so you can keep paying players. But yeah, just a good old Southern boy. I mentioned, when he was talking about, what's your dream golf foursome, or where do you want to play? He's like, I don't know, as long as we have 2 coolers on the back and we got some drinks and no one's taking themselves too seriously. Yeah, definitely. Just I don't know what you have to tell me the difference, because I was saying we got some northern Georgia guys here. I don't know the difference between North Georgia, South Georgia outside of a compass.
That's a good one. I mean, I grew up in South Georgia. That's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know what the difference would be. For me, when I got back to the office after interviewing him and then Trent, I said to the guys in our office, to Eric, and I was like, these are some good old boys. These are some good old boys from North Georgia. And I could be misspeaking though, Dave. I don't know if
they got you
offending North Georgians or South Georgians by saying that. I
mean, Buster went to Valdosta State, where I had a lot of friends go.
South, yeah.
Yeah, so that's South. So he's probably a good mix, because he had his college years at Valdosta State. So, but that is a good question for everybody. What's the difference, South Georgia, North Georgia boys? I mean, if you're around Atlanta, of course it's different, definitely. But outside of Atlanta, is there really much of a difference between North Georgia boys and South Georgia boys?
I'm fine with offending the entire state of Georgia, Dave.
I still got some friends there, Nick. All right, Harrison, you got anything else? And then Ryan, if you want to get in as well.
Yeah, just got a few more questions, and I'll jump out of here. Is Rusty Witt is the big deal like everybody's talking on Twitter and everywhere? Because he seems like the real deal strength coach. And also, what are your thoughts on Brad White so far? Because he seems like he's a well-traveled coordinator. And now I get off here.
Yeah. So the only chance, I haven't gone to any of the workouts. I used to go to. I need to start going, but I used to go. Billy's workouts were a little bit later. Tyler's were a little bit later. I ran into him in the hallway when I was waiting to interview Buster, and super intense. Definitely former. I don't want to misspeak. I thought he was a Navy SEAL, or I know he was in the military. Definitely very military officer, stern. Was asking him about the workouts and how the guys were doing. He's like, they're adjusting to it. But yeah, I think in terms of what the guys can lift, I think if you watch his Instagram, he's posting guys every day. on there with some of their lifts. They do. It's a little bit different than what they've done in the past. They're doing a lot of like heavy threes right now. So when I talk to him, I'm actually talking to the other 10 assistants, or I guess there's 12 more, but 10 of the other 12 assistants. I'm speaking with them 5 on Wednesday and 5 on Thursday, and then going to chop up all those videos and get them out, but we should have them all out within the next week after they're done.
Yeah, and on that too, Nick, we get a few of them this week for the media sessions as well.
Yeah. So I think they go
Wednesday, Friday.
I think it's coordinators, Rusty and Coach Wednesday.
Yep.
And then I don't know. I got a lot going on. I got interviews with VB3 and Dallas this week.
There we go.
A lot of stuff going on this week, content wise, at Florida Victorious. But yeah, super intense guy. I haven't gotten out to one of the workouts. I need to set about 12 alarms to get there by the time they're doing their workouts. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I had a ton of respect for Tyler Miles and the way they ran their strength program. Every strength coach, every strength program across the country gets, thrown into the fire when injuries start happening. I think it's just the sport. But I'll be interested to see Rusty. He's a super intense guy. And then what was the second question, Harrison? I just ran off on rambling there.
It was on, we were going to get
to
Brad. Right. Yep.
Yeah. I thought, and from talking to some of the guys at KSR, Kentucky Sports Radio, who I knew, I've known for years working at On3, and even before that, they love Brad. And I don't know if it was like them souring on Mark Stoops, but they said because Mark Stoops was a defensive guy, that Brad White didn't get the credit that he deserved for his fingerprints and what he did for that defense. Talking to him, the biggest thing from him is like, hey, we're going to be violent. And like, we're going to hit someone and like, we'll ask questions later. But like, we need to flow to the ball and we need to play with aggression. And I think that'll be interesting. I think it'll be a little bit different. I think they're more of like a 4-2-5. Florida's always had like that, or the last 4 years, we've had that really only 3 with like a nose tackle, D tackle, a strong side edge, and then that jack linebacker spot. So it'll be interesting to see how they use the guys that they have, because I think inside at tackle maybe you're a little thin, and then I wonder if someone like a Jalen Wiggins. I've been asked, like, does LJ McCray move to tackle? And I'm like, I think that's a waste of his ability. Like, you need to have him lining up 4 yards off to the right, like way out there, and just like, hey, go be athletic. I think someone like a Jalen Wiggins is just like already thicker, bigger built. LJ's more built like a small forward, power forward, long, lean. I think someone like a Jalen Wiggins is someone who could grow into that. But yeah, I'm interested because Kentucky's defense, I mean, Brad White was there with Mark Stoops when they were putting Dan Mullen in a headlock. And I think Dan Mullen's an unbelievable Saturday X's and O's coach. They put Billy Napier's not great game day X's and O's into an even bigger headlock. And Kentucky gave Georgia problems. Like, it's just a really good defensive scheme. And I think you have to, go into it with some cautious optimism. Like, hey, he's bringing a new scheme with a bunch of new players, and you have to, trust that, like, hey, you're going to put these guys that you have in the best spots. But yeah, I was excited when they announced Brad White, because I thought, like I said, that he has not gotten the credit for how good Kentucky's defense has been, just because the head coach was a defensive guy.
Yeah, to help that transition, then I'll bring Ryan in here as well. Nick, I've gotten that question a lot in here, and one reason people were looking forward to the interview that you had with Brad White on Florida Victorious, and then us getting to talk to him this week in the media sessions as well. The question of what will the defense look like, because you also have Jon Sumrall, who's a defensive head coach. And, he's got his own version of a defense, and Brad White as well. And Sumrall worked under Brad White at Kentucky for a few seasons. So there's obviously going to be a lot of similarity to style of defense. Now, Brandon Olson from Locked On Gators, he turned me on to the ESPN article that previewed Tulane versus Ole Miss for the college football playoff matchup. And it details some changes that Tulane and that defense made from the first 8 games of the season to the last 5 games before that college football playoff loss to Ole Miss. And in that, it goes, quote, after another blitz a lot and get burned game against UTSA, head coach Jon Sumrall and defensive coordinator Greg Gasparotto seem to better adapt to their defense's strength and weaknesses. During the Green Wave's current 5-game winning streak, a run that included the games against excellent Memphis and North Texas offenses, they blitzed far less, deployed more defensive backs on average, and played more safe zone coverage. They sacrificed a little size for speed, and it has somehow all minimized catastrophes while also increasing disruption levels in that part of the article. So first off, of course, great job for identifying issues and fixing them to go on a run to a conference championship. But also the change in approach, those descriptions of what they started doing toward the end of the season reminds me a lot of what we know a Brad White at Kentucky defense to be. Blitz far less, deployed more defensive backs on average, played more safe zone coverage. So, compare that to the last defense we saw with Patrick Toney, Austin Armstrong, Ron Roberts. And, should see less blitzing, probably compared to that defense, less simulated pressures compared to what White and Sumrall deploy overall. So I think over the last few years, Sumrall would use more man coverage than White. And I think some of that at Florida probably going to be personnel driven. Florida's corners, you probably can recruit better corners overall than you could at Kentucky. Defensive linemen at the same time, a little more athletic defensive linemen. But as you said, Nick, Kentucky had some good defenses. You'd like to replicate some of that. But overall, over time, I do think you probably can get better athletes on more consistency, to go play more man if you want to use the athleticism to the athletes that you can get here. So maybe early on, I could see more of a Kentucky model, but, more maybe pro-style defense as this thing goes on.
Yeah, and I've always said this both about Mark Stoops and the Kentucky football program, and then also the Kentucky baseball program and Nick Mingione. Kentucky's a hard job. You're competing against everyone in the SEC, but then because geographically where you are, and because geographically Kentucky doesn't have a ton of blue chip recruits, you're competing in Ohio against Ohio State, in Pennsylvania against Penn State, and Michigan against Michigan. Like it's a tough place to recruit. And I think Mark Stoops came into the SEC and said at the time he came in, he was like, shoot, everyone's doing spread. Nope, we're going to get really big offensive defensive lines. We're going to win the line of scrimmage, and we're going to make you play our style of football. And Nick Mingione did the same thing in baseball. Kentucky's the only team that squares around and bunts, and they hit and run, and they steal, and they play small. They play the kind of baseball that me growing up in the 90s was taught, and everyone else in the SEC is trying to throw 104 and have 120 exit velocity. And when you went to go play them, you weren't familiar. You weren't seeing it. It was almost like, when teams have to play Army or Navy and they're running, a triple option. So it was a credit to them. But I say all that just to say to your point, like, yeah, I think you're going to have access to a different type of athlete. And that goes to, you go and look at Amari, who committed, and Jon Sumrall, I think, broke a couple of his ribs at the basketball game last week. Like that's the kind of athlete that you wouldn't get at Kentucky. When you look at Florida's roster right now, maybe a little thin at cornerback, and who do you play at nickel? And you're going to have some new guys. You get Kanye in, and you get Cam Dooley. Cam knows the system that they'll run, but you've got some new guys in. But like you said, hey, maybe you might see more of Kentucky, and maybe we need to have some patience, because that was one of the questions I asked Brad, is like, how do you adjust to what you normally do when it's not the guys that you've picked out through recruiting for 4 years? You spent so much time in Kentucky. Those were the guys that you handpicked and to play in your system, and now you're kind of inheriting a team, for lack of a better term. You're stepdadding a defense, and you got to figure out how to coach a whole new group.
I like that, stepdadding a defense. New term here.
Working on your own baby. Stepdadding a defense.
All right, Ryan's in here, and then I'll get Bull Gator in here.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
As an experienced stepdad and real dad, I could say it's no easy task being either.
I'm learning the dad one now. I'll let you know when she starts painting my nails, but we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Don't worry, it'll come.
Embrace it.
Yep. just go with it. Just as a baseball fan, like I know you are, try to put a softball glove on her as early as possible. You'll love it. I got my daughter finally involved in softball, and it's a blast.
Yeah, she's gonna be short. Mom's 5'1", I'm 5'10" on a good day. So and Mom is
same here. Same here. Hey, we're same here. Both my kids
are
short.
Second baseman, I think, at best.
That's what.
That's where my daughter plays.
Hey, y'all say
my daughter's a second baseman.
Y'all see me in person. I was the second base all throughout, all throughout my baseball playing career. So yeah, there we go.
Me too. I played second base and left field or center field until somebody got a little bit faster than me, and then they took over center field. But anyway, back to football. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the conversation. What's we can already tell that the personality and the intensity level is just night and day different in Napier. Is that kind of resonating throughout the remaining staff that was kept and through the players as well? Like, can you see the difference in the way he's approaching the offseason as opposed to the way Napier approached it?
Yeah, so like Napier was always, to like another baseball term, you don't want to get too high on your highs, too low on your lows. Like he was always in the middle, and it didn't matter, what was going on. He just stayed even keel. You didn't have that like across the board. There was a lot of it. It does trickle down, but like the strength staff last year was, high intensity in your face. But I think it does trickle down when the head man is like putting eye black on to go into the office in cleats, in muddy cleats. Like I think that does trickle down. To use a Florida baseball reference, like Wyatt Langford was the best player when he was a junior, the best player on Florida's team, and would be the first one at the field to get work in. And if I'm a freshman outfielder, I can't show up an hour after Wyatt Langford to start my work because he's already way better than me. So like, I think it starts with the head coach, and I can't show up low energy if my head coach is, an actual human embodiment of, a cappuccino. You have to bring energy. So just being around him, and that's authentic. Because I remember after I was following Coach Sumrall around the entire day, his opening, press tour with Florida, and he had done his opening, media availability, his opening press conference, and then we're in the IPF and we're doing different pictures. And I think it was right before the, that fireside chat with Spurrier and Urban. And I was like, hey, I think you did really good at the press conference. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, I think like you had some good sound bites and I think people, enjoyed it. And he goes, well, I can only be myself. If they don't like it, that's fine. I'll have to win more football games, but I can't be anyone else. I ran into him today at the basketball game. Like that's just what you've seen from him, whether it's, at a press conference telling you like, I win, I'm going to win. I'm made for this job, whether it's him yelling or getting excited when a recruit commits. Like that's just him, whether the camera's on or off, from my experiences with him.
Your next mission, Nick, is to get that hoodie he was wearing today with the script Florida and get that thing in production somewhere.
That is currently, I've done some work since your tweet. That is currently a one of one. It was a blank Jordan hoodie that was brought to the person who responded to you. And they made that specifically for Coach. So currently a one of one.
The tweet has caught fire. So somebody's waiting.
I get so many. I'm sure you get the same thing. You're probably one of the people doing it. Anytime there's like stuff, because coaches get stuff sent to them.
Right.
Players, Nike wants it on the sideline. Jordan wants it on the sideline. I get dozens every Saturday. Hey, where can I get that? Every Friday night baseball. Hey, where do I get that? And I'm just like, if you go back 15 years, 20 years, and you're a really good baseball player and you make the team, you can get it. But right now, that Sumrall hoodie is a 1 of 1.
Okay, we got to get that fixed. But the recent one is, of course, the crew neck, the crew neck sweater, of course, where you have to tell everybody the UF bookstore. That's where you go. So, Ryan,
that was crazy because I got.
Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I'm just listening.
That Florida one. That Florida one. We had done a video where it was like behind the scenes with the equipment staff. And they had, of course, dozens of them. And I didn't think to ask for one. But then when it started as the Florida script with the gator head on the side, it started off as just for the coaches. And then I replied to somebody who was asking me about it during the Kentucky game because Billy Gonzalez was wearing it. Somebody from UF texted me. They're like, actually, we just made it available in the bookstore. And I went to the bookstore last week. Stock is low. I don't know if they're not making it anymore, but stock is low. So I'm guessing they sold well once word got out.
For sure. Ryan, anything else? And then I'm going to bring Bull Gator in.
No, I'm sure he wants to talk about the basketball game. So absolutely bring him in.
Well, go ahead, and I'll bring him in. But if you got something else, go ahead.
No, I'm good, Dave. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to bring Bull in.
Can you hear me, Dave?
I got you loud and clear.
Okay, cool. I'm doing it off of the net as opposed to what I normally do. Anyway, Nick, I do have a couple, but I'll tell you, I've been a little of a bummer here in Dave's chats because I've been kind of concerned that the influx of transfers hasn't materially elevated the overall talent of what was still in a 4-8 roster. I do expect a better record with better coaching, but based on what you've seen from these players so far, what gives you optimism for next season? I mean, is there a reason to believe the ceiling is higher than just making it to a lower tier bowl game?
Yeah, I think for me, going into last year, and I think Dave shared the opinion. He can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he shared the opinion that hey, this is a really good roster. And there's no more excuses for this coaching staff because we think the roster is there. The roster was paid very well. And if they're coached well, I think this is a team that can play. And then, DJ, I think him being out and not being able to practice and develop a lot of what we thought about him, we were projecting what he would be if he continued to develop and then didn't get the opportunity because of 2 different injuries. But I truly believed last year that hey, this roster is really, really good. And then when we got to November, especially internally at Florida Victorious, we were like, hey, whoever the coach is, no matter whoever the coach is, they're going to want to retain a lot of these guys. And I think that was the biggest thing from our standpoint was there's a lot of talent on this roster and we have to retain it. We at Florida Victorious don't choose who the coaches want to keep. And we just raise money. But I think if you look at the 12 guys that we announced that we signed that were coming back, we had kind of chose the bigger names that we were able to keep. That's this coaching staff being yeah, there was talent. Outside of I mentioned earlier, outside of Trey Wilson, I don't think there's a single player that left that the coaching staff is bummed that left, that they thought oh man, we really did everything we could to keep them, and they just decided to go somewhere else.
Maybe on a younger level, Nick, in Bachu. I mean, not in Bachu.
Burrow.
Yeah, Burrow. Yeah.
Mekhi Burrow. Yeah. I think I can't get into the money stuff, but I got Mekhi. People kept telling me Mekhi Burrow. I'm like, you guys are acting like Walter Nolan just left.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, not that far.
Sharif Floyd just left. It's definitely a projected. We thought he was projectable, but it's also a player who has knee problems and had to get his knee drained after every game last year. Would miss Monday practice and then be non-contact Tuesday, and there's other stuff that's going on there.
I think it was more about the position and I think it was more about the position and the number.
Yeah. But again, I'm always long-winded, but Bull Gator, I think to me, I thought the roster was good enough to be a playoff contender last year. And I think keeping the roster, if you have a coaching staff that can actually put guys in position, can function on game day with some tempo, with some pace, and not have to overanalyze everything and run so slow. And if you can be as explosive as Buster was, like Dave just said, as Buster was at Georgia Tech, with, in my opinion, better athletes here, yeah, I think we should expect, give a coaching staff in the first year a little bit of grace. But yeah, I think we should expect something better, than the Birmingham Bowl, or I don't even know what the lower tier bowls, what the leveling is now. I don't know if Cheez-It is popular. I wouldn't mind getting one of those Pop-Tart vests that they give the media with the sprinkles on it, but I don't know if I want to go
Dukes.
to the Pop-Tart Bowl outside of
Go eat some
Pop-Tart Bowl swag.
Go eat some Duke's mayo.
That's true. A lifetime supply.
We're back to Vegas this year. I think the Duke's Mayo Bowl and Vegas Bowl flip flop. I think we're back to Vegas this year. I would not mind going to Vegas.
Gotcha.
But with a degenerate gambler.
Do you have any concerns about quality depth? I know you talked about the secondary already, but any other spots? Well, not just quality, but there's also youth. I guess we have a lot of depth.
Yeah, and that's one area where last year, because of the injuries, like Jabari Flowers played way more than you probably thought he was going to, and has more experience now going into it. So you've got some guys who are sophomores who have played, but I look at the offensive line, like I need to see what the tackles look like. At center, what's going to happen there, because you've kind of been building up Jason Zandamello to take over when Jake Slaughter leaves, and then you bring somebody else in. So I think that'll be a battle. Offensive line depth is always going to concern me, probably. I think linebacker is set, receiver is set, running back is set. I have no idea what to the other one is tight end. I know tight end's like a big bugaboo for some fans, but like I don't know what the tight end is going to look like in this offense. And the offense that you were running was like a big red "don't come here" sign for anyone of like exciting talent, athletic ability. So it was a hard position to recruit.
And Nick on that
year of like, hey, this is
and on that, on tight end, I think because Amir entered the portal and came back, and we all know he's more receiving style of tight end. So it does let me know they see some value in, the passing attack of the tight end by bringing him back.
Yeah, and I don't know that we're going to get like 12 personnel, but I think you will have kind of like that H back type role, and that's Amir. You've got guys in the NFL who, like a George Kittle is great at blocking, but you also have guys in the NFL that Kyle Pitts just came off a great year, and I'm not going to ask Kyle Pitts to get in my goal line package at tight end. You've got to be able to have a spot for different types. And that tight end is really a position when you look at Amir where the last coaching staff did not put, every coach wants to say we're going to put our guys in the best position to be successful. There was no place in Billy Napier's offense for an Amir Jackson. There just wasn't. And he was just kind of, in my opinion, wasting his time. So probably enters the portal thinking like, hey, I'll go find someone that's going to throw me the ball, and then gets talked back in after talking with Buster and Trent McKnight, who's the passing game coordinator and works closely with Buster, to coming back. And that, to me, I think you're reading it right, Dave, is, hey, we're not going to ask you to put your hand in the dirt and try to block, Cash Howell. We're going to try to throw you the ball. But to answer your question, I think defensive tackle is a spot where I need to see how, a guy like DK Kalu or some of the guys that they brought in, how do they look? How do Jeremiah McLeod, the staff's really high on him. Joseph Mbachu, the staff's really high on him. Still, both staffs, previous staff was high on him. And those are Chapman's guys. He got them to stay. I think both of those guys, I don't know if Mbachi's a redshirt freshman or a sophomore, but I think McLeod's a sophomore. Second-year guys, to shorten it up. Second-year guys that you think can take a step. But that might be one just because it's a position where you can get hurt. And if all those guys, if you don't have any injuries, defensive tackle, I think you're fine. Does it get a little squirrely or a little hairy if you get 1-2 guys go down with rolled ankles or what have you? I think that could be a spot where it gets a little hairy. And then I think corner. Who is your number one? Last year, hey, that was no question. Devin Moore is your number one cornerback. This year, is it Dede? Is it Cormani? And then how do you shake out who's playing nickel? Who are your starting safeties? You get Bryce Lovett back, but then you brought in a couple guys that can play safety, and that'll be interesting to me just to see how the secondary kind of shakes out. But yeah, without a second portal, this is kind of the roster. This is what you have going in. I kind of like that. You don't have to, this isn't just your spring camp roster, and then you've got 15 guys going to the portal after spring. So it's nice, certainly from a reporter standpoint, Dave, I'm sure, to know what you have, February 1st and not have to be waiting till, April or May to figure out, all right, the portal's closed again. And now the team is solidified.
Yeah. I mean, I love being able to talk about a roster now going into spring camp and knowing, all right, well, this is what the depth chart will look like. It might just be shuffled now. Like, what you're working with, the guys who have work to do. Yeah. The guys who are probably the starters. I mean, I guess there was some fun in, well, okay, it didn't work out. Who will they go get now? But no, man, I'm sure the coaches like it better, and I think I like it better as well. It's just you can have your pre-spring depth chart and your post-spring depth chart, and it tracks. You don't have to. There's no more guessing. There's not a guessing game as far as, are you going to add somebody else, and will it throw this position in flux now? Or it's, I do like it better overall.
Yeah.
What about the precedents?
Yeah, and it'll be. Sorry. No. Go ahead.
I was going to say, with the precedent set by Bediako, as we saw today, are we going to get football players coming in the middle of the year, maybe who didn't catch on in a football team?
Who knows? I have no idea what to think anymore.
Yeah. I think I mentioned Brad White mentioned that about Brandon Spikes. He's like, I've already put a petition in for Brandon Spikes. He said, he can get me some goal line snaps. I think it's ridiculous to have a guy and then to fight like in the European guys. There isn't like a high school to college to pro pipeline, so they're playing like semi-pro and. Even those pro leagues, those guys would leave in a heartbeat to go to the NBA. So it's totally different. And but shout out to the Tuscaloosa judge Booster.
You have to wonder if there's a bar in that state. You really do. But speaking of basketball, what is it? 2 games now. We've scored 195 points in 2 games. Offense is going crazy. And my question to Nick is,
not bad.
I'm already convinced that Ruben Chinleau is going to be SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Do you think he could be National Defensive Player of the Year? Because what he showed today on ABC nationally televised game was fantastic.
Yeah, I saw even like Pat Forty tweeting. I think Pat Forty's up at like the Winter Olympics or getting ready to go to the Winter Olympics and tweeting about Florida basketball. What a job from him! Like just from Ruben and Carlin Hartman deserves a ton of credit. I'm blanking on their strength coach. I'll need to look it up. Their strength coach deserves a lot of credit because Ruben has put on a ton of size since transferring from Washington State. And
he's quicker.
As much as he looks like an NFL tight end who's getting ready for pro day, like he got into a bad spot today, like getting switched onto a guard and just shuffled his feet, stayed in front, got them to like pass the ball away from that. Like as an offensive coordinator, I guess, in basketball, you're trying to get that matchup. And then Ruben Chinleau just shuffled his feet and stayed in front of 2 different guards when they switched to him. He's been exceptional. I don't know the landscape nationally enough, but I did start to see, on Twitter today, some people saying like, hey, the SEC DPOY is probably locked up already. But yeah, what a story for him too. Just what he's been able to do. I think it was at his 13th double-double this year. And they call him Big Freaky. I think he has merch that says Big Freaky if you want a shirt with Ruben Chinyelu's face on it.
We're not even.
But yeah, he's having an unbelievable season. That front court, I think.
Yeah, we're not that far removed from SEC play starting a year ago, and people dreading him on the court at all. And now he's a force on both sides.
Yeah. I think this time last year, we were joking like, oh, he's like a great value Dennis Rodman. He's there to like grab some rebounds and be the enforcer. And now we're talking about like a guy who's completely changing the game. Call him the warden down in the paint, and shooting free throws with some touch, like a one guard. He's been exceptional at the line for his standards of late.
I was watching what's that called? Southeastern 16 today, and they were talking about if you're going to put together your all SEC team right now, how do you leave off Tommy Howe, and how do you leave off Ruben Chinley?
Mm-hmm.
Who's a better 3 or 4 as Howe, and who's a better 5 than Ruben right now? And they can't. They said, and so to think that Florida would be like the only team I see that ever has 2 players on there is either Kentucky or on the rare occasion Alabama. It score so much, but Gators to have 2 players on the all SEC. I don't think we even had that with Orford Noah.
Yeah, I remember when Walt made first team All-American last year, and they're like, oh, he's the first Gator to ever do it. I was like, what? How? And then you go and look, and you're like, oh, there was Greg Oden and Kevin Durant. And you're like, okay, that's why. But yeah, I think Tommy too. Tommy's taking more threes, making more threes this year. He's playing a ton of minutes and just efficient, both offensive and defensively. Being asked to play a different spot too this year for the most part. I think the front court. Nate Oates said today after whining about how long they stand in the paint, said today like everyone's afraid of Florida's front court, and they should be. The biggest question will be, do you have enough guard play when March comes? And last year you had 3 senior guards. And when you get to March, you either need to be old or have exceptional guard play. Last year, Florida had both of them, and obviously you win a national championship. But if I go and I think, I'm like, hey, Florida last year could kind of beat you any way you wanted to. Alabama, I think they had a game where it was like 99-96. They beat Bama. But then you get into the national championship, and Houston's a team that's like, hey, no one's scoring 70 this game. So first to 68 wins. And Florida's like, all right, we can do that too. And there were just so many different ways the team last year could beat you. This year's team is just built differently. And I don't know that, if they're in the kind of holes that Florida was last year, down 9, down 12 with less than 8 minutes left, that they can shoot their way out of it. But I don't know that you're going to get into holes like that. I've been following I forget what the analytic guy is, but he's tracking kill shots. And what he calls a kill shot is a 10-0 run. And Florida is one of the only teams in the country, if not the only team in the country, that hasn't had a 10-0 run against them. And I think that is probably because you're going to have to get a 10-0 run, you're probably going to have to go inside. And it's very tough to score at the basket with this front court. But I am really pleased with the way Boogie's starting to play. I think it was just the hair. It was throwing off his balance. And then obviously Urban Klauscher has clearly taken another step.
Yes.
And he's not going to be on the SEC all defense team, but I think he gives you effort. And he's certainly gotten better this year defensively. And then everyone knows how he shoots. So it's certainly a really fun team. I remember going back to when I was in Madison Square Garden. We watched that game. I was sitting next to Neil Blackman. We watched that game, and I was like, that was awesome. That was an awesome game. And I looked down, and I'm like, this has to be the best 5-loss team ever, like, or a 4-loss team. I think there were 5-4 at the point. Like, this has to be the best 4-loss team in the history of 4-loss teams in December. And then you look at what they're doing now, and I think people were getting down on them because of the record. But you look at what they're doing now, and I think everyone's coming back around to being like, oh, Florida is the class of the SEC.
Well, in a week from yesterday, we're going to see it because it's going to be the showdown to see who's number 1 in the SEC. And by the way, UF All-Americans, I think, but for his off the field issues, Vernon Maxwell may have been able to be one, but he kind of weed was a little more important.
They called him Mad Max for a reason.
Yep, my classmate. I'm a little older than the rest of you guys.
What were you doing with him? How do you know what he was doing?
Actually, my brother knows Vernon because he was there. He was even older than I was. But yeah,
that's the public story.
That's a public.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So I know we got started a little bit late because of technical difficulties. I don't want to keep Nick too much longer. So hey, Nick, man, thanks so much.
Oh, of course, Dave. Anytime. Appreciate you guys having me. And again, for everyone that's still left here, thank you so much for banding together and donating to Florida Victorious. It was very cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. We need to do this. We need to do this again. Do this more. I like this. Gives us both a different style to hang out with members here. So,
yeah, and I'll definitely know a lot more after I get to see some spring practices too. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So we'll check in a couple of times during spring practice then. That'll work. That'll really work. All right. This episode will go out for everybody else who's not members. But the way you take part in these, everybody, of course, joining Gators Breakdown Plus, gatorsbreakdownplus.com. Starting at $3 a month, access to the Discord, text chats, and chats like these as well, if you remember there. So link is in the description or gatorsbreakdownplus.com. Everybody out there, thank you one more time for checking us out right here on Gators Breakdown.